Organised by Barbican Art at the National Museums of Scotland, is understandably drawing large crowds. As well as being a chance to play a load of old games, the Game On exhibition charts the historically and culturally significant games of the past 40 years. So I thought I'd better get down there. The first electronic game featured in the exhibition is Space War, designed for the PDP-1 computer in 1962. The first arcade game, Computer Space, still looks futuristic to my eyes, even though it was produced in 1971. The first successful arcade game, Pong, is less glamorous, but it was pretty obvious what you had to do to play. Games collector and historian Andy Welburn looks after these artefacts and became my guide to the other major arcade firsts, like good old Space Invaders, the first with animated graphics.
We're only talking really blocky 2 or 3 frames, but it was the movement, the side-to-side shuffling movement of the invaders that people tend to think was like, it looked like lots of bugs crawling across the screen.
Would you say this was perhaps the first colour video game?
No, it's the first colour cheating game. They put a coloured overlay on a black and white screen.
Clever, don't you think?
Indeed. Imaginative.
You go.
A kind of more aggressive Space Invaders, Galaxian, was the first true colour game. To compete with it down the arcades, any other game had to be made in colour, or have something else pretty special, like Asteroids, the first game to give you a chance at stardom by having a high score table where you could enter your own initials in this eerie glow.
Asteroids is a vector game, which means that all the graphics are made up purely of just lines. And it's a special type of monitor that was only used in the early days of video games and quickly went out of service due to it being fairly unreliable.
Defender hit the arcades in 1980, and it was the first to use a map at the top of the screen, the scanner as it's called.
Defender was the highest earning game of 1980. Was thought to have been a complete flop by the manufacturer, but actually turned into one of the biggest hits that we know of.
I assume they thought it was going to be a flop because of all these buttons. I mean, the ones we've just been playing, there's like a couple of buttons, and look at all these.
I mean, the whole idea with arcade games is taking money, so people put their money in, they might have died immediately, like that, but they would then always go and put their money back in it and try again.
Now, the reason I never really played any of these early arcade games, I am kind of old enough for the later ones at any rate, is because whenever I saw them, they always had gangs of boys standing around them. But I have played Centipede.
Centipede was the first game to be largely designed and developed by a female games designer programmer. And you know, the control method of the trackball and the button was a lot easier for girls to get hold of, and was very popular amongst the women.
Yeah, for some reason, we obviously quite like shooting little insects rather than aliens.
Rather than people or aliens, yes.
With all these firsts in arcade games, it's inevitable that as they evolve, you're going to get a few examples of the last of their kind.
Crystal Castles is one of my personal favourites that I've decided to put in here for the artwork factor. Crystal Castles was the end of the time where they thought that artwork covering the entire cabinet was important. After that time, it just started getting a bit bland, realising that it didn't make that much difference to people.
So it's official, old arcade games might have basic graphics compared to their modern counterparts, but the cabinets they're in are much prettier. And for details of the current location of the Game On exhibition, visit the Gamepad website at www.bravo.co.uk/gamepad.